Welcome to chapter 21 of the book of 1 Samuel. The last chapter, we saw David and Jonathan separating, where David finds out that Saul is intent on killing him. And Saul's son Jonathan tells David, and they leave, very emotional. I'm not sure if they see each other again. But David leaves, and here it says, and he comes to Nob. Jonathan went back to the city where his father was at. So now we are no longer with David, Jonathan, and Saul, but just Saul and David, where Saul wants to kill David and all the different things that happen in this period of time. We'll be going through the rest of the book. So David comes to Nob, to Ahimelech, the priest, and he was the great priest. And this, where exactly Nob is, I'm not sure. And this is probably where the tabernacle was at the time. It seems it was a tent, so they were able to move it around. And Ahimelech is startled in the meeting David. Apparently he knew who he was, saw him before, and he was all of a sudden, here he comes, no warning. And Ahimelech said to David, "Why is it that you're alone?" Mono is mono is by alone, derivative. And no one's with you. Well, now this is strange because it does talk about the men being with him here in a few verses. But so I'm not exactly sure why it says he was alone, but yet he did have the men. It may have been because he was expecting the king or somebody more important than just these men to be with him, and then he considered him alone. He's not with the normal retinue from the king. That's my guess. And David said to the priest Ahimelech, "Well, the king gave charge to me a thing today, and he said to me, well, let no one know anything concerning the matter for which I send you and for what I have given charge to you." Well, now that's a lie, because that's not what happened at all. Now, doesn't mean it's okay for us to lie, because David lied and got away with it, but we have all sorts of things in the Bible. When I was younger, I always thought, well, everything in the Bible was, how we were supposed to act. But yet, there are things that people do that are wrong, but yet God allows them things to happen and still can be a blessing, so forth. But here we'll go on, and it says, "And to the servants I testified in the place," wherever he was, in the one being called Philani Aloni. Now, I have no idea what he's referring to. And now, if there is in your hand 5 breads, put into my hand the thing being found. So there he was hungry. And the priest responded to David and said, "Well, there are not profane breads in my hand, but only there are holy breads only." So if the servants were having been kept from a woman, then they shall eat. So now here he sees that he has the servants. Now, this holy bread was on a table. It was 12 loaves, 2 rows of 6. Nobody's quite sure if they're leavened or unleavened, but they were breads, and they were to be in front of the holy place perpetually, all the time. They lasted for a week, and after the week they were taken and replaced by new breads, and the priests were able to eat these bread loaves, but only the priests in a holy place, it says. Well, now, these men were not priests, and it's not a holy place, but he makes an exception, Ahimelech does, and he says, if the servants were having been kept from a woman, then they shall eat. And David answered to the priest and said to him, "Yes, even from a woman we have been at a distance from yesterday and the 3rd day before. Well, that's questionable because he might be lying again. In my coming forth for the journey, all the servants have been purified. And again, he might be exaggerating this. But this journey is profane, for today it shall be sanctified on account of my weapons. And Ahimelech the priest gave to him breads of the prothesios, the place setting. That was on a table in front of the holy place. For there was not there bread, profane bread, but only breads of the presence, the ones being removed from out of the presence of the Lord, so as to place near the hot breads, in which day he took them. So that's interesting here, but now in the New Testament we find I'll get it right, third time, Mark 2:23, and it came to pass for him, Jesus, to pass on the Sabbath through the wheat fields. And his disciples began to make their way while plucking the ears of wheat. When the Pharisees said to him, "See, what do they do in the Sabbath which not allowed?" And he said to them, "Well, at no time did you read what David did when he had need and he hungered himself and the ones with him? How he entered into the house of God unto Abiathar, the chief priest, and so now we find out he is the chief priest, and ate the breads of the place setting, the prothesios, which is not allowed to eat, unless to the priests, and gave even to the ones being with him. And he said to them, the Sabbath on account of man exists, and not man on account of the Sabbath, so that the Son of Man is Lord also of the Sabbath." Now Jesus was accused of breaking the laws, telling people they can break the law. And here you would think, well, this is sort of a breaking the law because these Pharisees are correct. It wasn't right for these to do. But yet Jesus shows here how if it was to save a life, these men for the purpose of God, then an exception, I suppose, can be made because Jesus is allowing this to happen. So I could see where the Jews today even accuse Jesus of coming and changing their laws, which he did. But a lot of the things that he's accused of doing, the laws, were made for the Jews and not for the people of the nations, also called Gentiles. And so it continues, and there was a certain one there of the bondmen of Saul in that day, being held before the Lord. Now it's where it's strange, being held before the Lord. There for a purpose, I guess, and the name to him was Doeg, the Edomite, feeding the mules of Saul. Now later we find out that this man told Saul and caused the death of all these priests. We'll get into that in probably the next few chapters. And David said to Ahimelech, "Well, see if there is here under your hand or your possession a spear or broadsword. For my broadsword and my weapons I have not taken in my hand, for the matter of the king was in haste." Another lie. And the priest said, "Oh, behold, the broadsword of Goliath, the Philistine, whom you struck in the valley of Elah. And it is wrapped in a cloak behind the shoulder piece. If this you take for yourself, then take it, for there is not another besides it here." And David said, "There's not anything as it. Give it to me." And he gave it to him, and David rose up and fled in that day from out of the presence of Saul. And David came to Achish, king of Gath, which is the Philistine area, over towards the Gaza Strip. And the servants of Achish said to him, "Well, is this not David, the king of the land? Did not the women joining in a dance to this one taking the lead, saying, 'Saul struck his thousands, and David his 10,000s, which they would have been among. And David put these words in his heart. He heard that, and he's worried. feared exceedingly before the face of Achish, king of Gath. So he comes there, and now it doesn't say if the men are with him or not, but he changed his countenance before them, and carried about with his hands like acting crazy, and fell upon the doors of the gateway, and his saliva flowed down upon his beard. He looked like an insane person. And Achish said to his servants, "Behold, you see a man overcome by convulsions? Why did you bring him to me? Or do I feel a want of ones overcome by convulsions, that you carry him being possessed unto me? Shall this one enter into my house? No." Shall, the E here generally requires a no, a negative at the end of it. No. So David does not go into Gath, but yet he continues on, and we will continue in chapter 22, find out where he came and what happened to him. So I hope you'll join us and continue with this trek of David's till he becomes king. Till the next time, God bless.